big g'day and welcome to another cracking edition of the RDFNL Footy Show. My name's Yeendy, excited to be with you as always, and I'm here with Tara Murray from the Star Weekly. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be back into a round of actual matches. As good as Interleague is, nothing beats your regular matches.
Absolutely, a great weekend for Interleague, but we're more concerned about what's happening here in round 5. Now, if we'll just quickly look at the fixtures. This is the beauty about recording now, is that the games that we've got on board, we've got Melton Centrals versus Sunbury Kangaroos, Diggers Rest versus Rockbank. But it's the next 4 games that are interesting. Wallen versus Wood and Heskett, Riddle Rupertswood, Romsey Lansfield, Macedon v Broadford. Go back 12 months, we've got 4 big games there. Now we're starting to see the landscape change a little bit.
It is. You look at it, you look at all those matches now, you could go, yep, that team's going to win. 12 months ago, you wouldn't know. Rupertswood, Riddle sort of build up a little rivalry the last couple of years. That can go either way. So that one's been interesting to watch the last couple of years. At the moment, you'd say Ruperts would be red-hot favourites with that one. Romsey, Lansfield, you've got Lansfield, which is struggling without a win. You've got Romsey, who's coming off beating the reigning premiers. So you look how far are those 2 clubs. There wasn't much difference between them last year. Even Wallen, Wood End. Wallen seems to have gone forward. Wood End, it's been a little bit up and down to start the season. So they're very interesting matches, but at the same time, you're looking at them and go, they look one-sided.
They certainly do, and hopefully we'll dissect them now, and hopefully it's not so much the case. But we will look at Rupertswood versus Riddle because they have had the rivalry. The last time these 2 teams faced off was in an elimination final at Wallen, where Riddle came from behind to beat the Sharks. We're seeing a different Bombers lineup, a lot younger. Rupertswood have got some youth in their team, but they've got a lot more experience, and playing on their home deck as well, going to be a big advantage for them.
It is, and I think the previous week before that, you had Rupertswood knock off Riddle the week before heading into the finals. So they got to know each other really well late in the season last year. So Rupertswood at home, and I think that's a big benefit to them because that ground can be hard to play on at times. Sometimes it can be very low scoring. And when you play on a ground like that, you get used to that. Going into the game, as you mentioned, Riddle is a very young side. They've had 13 players play their first senior game for the club so far. So very young, very different looking side. It's whether they can run out games, I think, is the key. They've played well for moments, but they haven't been able to play for that whole 4 quarters. And you've got someone like Rupertswood who has looked good against the sides that have been struggling. So I expect them to get over the line, but it's how Riddle plays. Riddle pushed Macedon, not necessarily on the scoreboard, but on the field, and obviously Macedon's already played Rupertswood and won easily. So it'll be interesting how they match up there.
Definitely very interesting. Hats off to a couple of youngsters or a couple of players who made their debut for the Bombers in the previous week. Tanner Bell from Sunbury Lions, and as well Brad Collins, I think he's from Sunbury Lions as well. Both of them played pretty well down back and probably through the back end of the midfield. So I really like their addition and the sort of experience they add to the team, and looking forward to seeing how they gel again. Good way to break into the squad. Where they can, hopefully they can maintain that input against Rupertswood. And
you mentioned Tanner Bell, he did have experience in the Sunbury Lions senior side, and they've been around the mark the last few years, and he would have played with Ben Sonigan probably a little bit.
Yep.
So another former Sunbury Lion in that back line, so those guys have got that connection, and if they can build around that connection, then that's something going forward for the Bombers.
Macedon v Broadford, certainly an interesting game for the Roos, who seem to be improving week by week, improving some of the basic things, but they're up against a red hot Macedon side at Tony Clark Reserve. It's going to be a cracking contest for the Cats, who are in good form at the moment.
I think Cats will be looking for a very big win here. I think they've been a little bit up and down with their matches. It's had some really, really good quarters and then some more even quarters. I think their match against Bombers was probably their most even performance, even though you say that they kicked 12 goals in the last quarter against a Bombers side that had run out of legs. And obviously Broadford is a very young side, and that is it going to be the same case again, that Broadford isn't going to have the legs to match the Cats?
Well, and the size of the ground as well. Fitness for some of these guys coming through, obviously without an under 18, so that the guys who are playing senior footy have to work a little bit harder, but hopefully they can play a game plan that suits them and doesn't require them to work as hard as they need to, and probably get a few little wins that they're after along the way.
And you mentioned fitness. That's one area that Cats coach Jeff Andrews said is one of their strengths this season. They have that fitness that they can run out games really, really well.
Wallen v Wood and Heskett, as we spoke about before, would have been a cracking contest last year, given that we knew the Hawks were on the up, and the Hawks are still on the up. I don't think we've seen the best of them just yet, but they're A couple of ordinary performances against Macedon and Rupert's Wood in consecutive weeks is a bit tough for them.
It is. This possibly could be the game of the week. It says a lot. They could be all very one-sided, but depends on how the Hawks go. They've obviously had 2 really poor weeks, and you wouldn't expect them to have a third like that. And then you've got Wallen, who at times have looked good, but I think they're still just going because they do have a very new lineup. They did get quite a few recruits into the side. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think Wallen will win this.
Yeah.
They need to win this if they're going to play finals, but it'll be interesting how it goes.
Romsey v Lansfield. Romsey ended up beating the Tigers to knock them right out of finals contention in the last round of the home and away season last year. They are flying after beating the reigning premiers. Lansfield, well, they're going to be a work in progress, but hopefully that they can sort of get a few things over the course of the build up to that one. Will they have a slight chance, the Tigers?
I think Romsey will get across the line easy. I think the one thing they need to make sure they don't get complacent.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've beaten a team that went into undefeated last round, and they know they can play well. They played well against the Sunbury Kangaroos. For them now, they need to play well against the lower sides. So you've got Lansfield that is struggling. For Romsey to make sure they've got that consistency and get over the line against Lansfield.
They go and beat a team like Diggers Rest by a goal. Is there a chance that we could see them just really put the foot down and really cruise on? Or will we see just Lansfield improving over the break, having improved over the break to maybe tighten the screws a bit?
It is possible Romsey could put their foot down. They've had all their matches have sort of been really close to start the season. So I'm expecting them to put the foot down, which I would love to see the Tigers respond. It has been a slow start and a tough start for them, so I'd love to see them get into the match and be really into the match into a last quarter.
Be watching that one with great interest. I think one of the other matches around, we spoke about good form from the Centrals against the Sunbury Kangaroos. Both teams are situated pretty well identical with 3-1. Played at Arnold's Creek. This could be, if we're going to see an upset this round, this is probably going to be the one for me.
I think Sunbury Kangaroos will get over the line. Obviously, both sides are 3-1, but they've had very different draws. So you look at the Kangaroos, their losses come to Diggers Rest. Melton Centrals has come against Romsey. I was going to say they're very different teams, but then Romsey did knock off Diggers Rest.
Yeah.
So Centrals have had an easier start to the season. They've played sides which will likely finish in the bottom half of the ladder.
Yep.
For them, it's about continuing to improve. They've showed that they can match it with those lower sides. It's about being competitive with these top sides now.
Getting a windy day if it happens. Who knows what could happen? It might sort of balance out the game a little bit, which would be of great interest. But I think either the Kangaroos are going to win by a length of the Flemington Straight, or we're going to see a much closer physical game. Be fascinated with the last game to look at. We've got Diggers Rest and Rockbank. We know the Rams have improved. The Burrows are stinging after their recent loss to Romsey. What can Rockbank do here?
I was going to say, I'd hate to be Rockbank this week.
Yeah.
When you've got Diggers Rest, who lost one match last season, coming off a loss early in this season, they won't be happy. They're going to be that. For the Rams, it's a bit about being competitive again. Obviously, the last 2 weeks, they've had losses, but they've been very different. They were competitive against Wallen for the majority of the game. Rupert's Wood, they were smashed. So it's more about the performance they had against Wallen, continuing it on that. So Rupert's Wood's been their only game. They haven't been competitive.
Yeah.
They've obviously got to win. They had a close loss to Central. So for them, it's about being competitive and making sure that they're not completely blown out of the park.
Exactly. And look, the last time these two teams faced back last year, I think Diggers Rest kicked over 40 goals or something like that. So it was a forgettable day, but we know Rockbank are a vastly different side from the team that we saw back then.
Exactly, and as you mentioned, obviously it was a really big margin last year. They'd like to at least halve that margin.
Oh, easily.
Exactly, and that's the thing for them. It's not necessarily about getting those wins. It's about being more competitive and going, yep, we're not that far away, we're improving.
Like to see the Rams really take it up and Diggers Rest to bounce back. It's going to be an interesting game. It is going to be an interesting round of footy. Tara, thanks so much for joining us again this week, and we look forward to catching up with you next week to discuss the results from this coming round's game.
Thank you.